Yama, I'm Jack Evans with your first BTN of Term 4. I hope you had a great holiday. Let's see what's coming up. We'll answer some of your questions about Australia's social media ban. Find out the fascinating story behind the Nobel Peace Prize. And meet some students who are passionate about letter writing. But first, after 2 long years, Israel and Hamas have agreed to stop fighting in Gaza. Last week, the two sides met with negotiators in Egypt after the US drew up a peace plan. Here's Ren to tell you what happened.
Across Gaza, in Israel, and around the world, there were celebrations.
It's a perfect morning, it's a miracle.
I am super happy for the first time in my life. I am 40 years old and today I am happy. It's as if I was born again.
On Thursday, the 9th of October, Israel and Hamas agreed that they would stop fighting and to let hostages and prisoners go home.
There's no better joy in a holiday than here that our brothers are going to come back home.
I hope that this happiness will be fulfilled and the ceasefire deal will last.
The announcement comes after 2 years of intense fighting in Gaza, which was sparked by the deadliest attack in Israel's history. On October 7th, 2023, armed fighters led by Hamas killed almost 1,200 people and took another 251 hostage.
2 years ago, on October 7th, Israel was brutally attacked, savagely attacked.
Hamas is the group that governs Gaza, one of the 3 occupied Palestinian territories. A number of countries, including Australia, call Hamas a terrorist organisation because of its use of violence against civilians. And after October 7, Israel declared war against it.
Citizens of Israel, we are at war. Not in operation or in rounds, but at war.
Israel launched airstrikes and sent soldiers into Gaza, saying they wanted to destroy Hamas and bring Israeli hostages home. But it wasn't just Hamas that was affected by the war. Gaza is one of the most densely populated places on Earth. And since the fighting began, more than 67,000 Palestinians are thought to have been killed, many of them women and children. The war has forced almost everyone living in Gaza to leave their homes, and more than 90% of those homes have been destroyed.
Gaza is the place that I've been born into, that I grew into. My school in Gaza, everything that makes me happy is in Gaza. And now everything is gone, everything is destroyed.
Gazans are also facing famine. And according to the United Nations, 1 in 3 people have been going entire days without food. These conditions have led to protests around the world.
Stop starving Gaza! Stop starving Gaza!
The goal of the Israeli government is abundantly clear as we continue to witness the destruction of Palestinians in Gaza.
In September, a major United Nations report said Israel was committing genocide, which is the intentional effort to destroy a group of people based on their identity. The report found that the Israeli military had targeted civilians, destroyed homes, and blocked aid. Israeli officials rejected this, saying the claims were false and biased, and that Israel has been acting in self-defense. Within Israel, protests against the government have been growing, and one of Israel's most important allies demanded an end to the war.
It's a great deal for Israel, but it's a great deal for everybody, for Arabs, for Muslims, for everybody, for the world.
The US drew up a 20-point peace plan. Israel publicly supported it, and while Hamas wasn't part of making the plan, they did agree to meet with negotiators in Egypt.
We presented a response that would fulfill the interests and rights of our people and save their blood.
Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire and to begin releasing hostages and prisoners. Israel also agreed to remove some of its soldiers from Gaza and allow more aid into the region. But the rest of the peace plan, including what happens to Hamas and how Gaza will be governed long term, hasn't been confirmed yet. Some are worried the plan won't lead to long-term peace and doesn't pave the way for Palestine to become a separate state, something a lot of countries, including Australia, have said they support. There are also concerns about Israel's security and whether the two sides can ever move past the damage that's been done. But for now, many people are just happy to have the chance to be together again and to feel safe.
The government is making changes to Australia's emergency network, which you can reach by dialing which 3 numbers. It's 000, and it's been in the spotlight after an Optus outage that stopped people from being able to reach emergency services. Last week, the government introduced a bill that will bring in a 000 custodian, who will oversee the emergency network and make sure things are working as they should. Do you know why some national parks and monuments in the US are closed at the moment? Is it because of a heat wave? Because government workers aren't being paid? Or because government workers have gone on strike? It's because government workers aren't being paid. Around 40% of them were temporarily suspended because of a government shutdown, which happens when US lawmakers can't agree on a bill to keep spending the country's money. It's not just tourists being affected. The shutdown could impact everything from tax collection to air traffic control.
It's all the services the government provides that we forget about. You know, I'm traveling, everything from your travel and other things is going to be impacted. So I think it's a serious thing.
Hello.
Can you name this pioneering primatologist who died recently at the age of 91? It's Jane Goodall. She became famous for her field studies of chimpanzees and gorillas, which changed our understanding of the animals and their behaviour.
Man the toolmaker is how we were defined.
She also spent a lot of her life advocating for animal rights and the environment.
If we get together, if we roll up our sleeves and take action, there is hope for the future of the planet.
You're watching BTN, the best school in Australia, South Georgia Primary School.
Over the holidays, we got some new details about Australia's social media ban for under 16s. But we know that a lot of you still have questions. We know because you told us. So with the help of the E-Safety Commissioner, Joe's done his best to answer some of them.
Why are you banning social media for under 16s?
How will completely banning social media fix the problem?
First, what I'd like to say is it's not a ban. It's the delay to having accounts.
Yeah, as you probably know, lots of experts are worried about the effects that social media can have on the mental health and well-being of young people.
And so by delaying access to holding a social media account until you're 16, we can spend that time building your digital literacy, critical reasoning skills, but also your impulse control skills.
What platforms will be banned?
How are you gonna choose those apps and make sure those apps are the correct apps to choose for the ban?
The government hasn't actually got a list of platforms that will be banned. It's just got legislation that defines what social media platforms are. That pretty obviously includes Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, and X. But the government has flagged that it could also apply to YouTube, Discord, and even Roblox.
Ultimately, what this means is that the list of platforms that are covered is going to change over time. They will never going to be able to say that this is the list. It's going to be a very, very dynamic process.
How is the age verification going to work when you first download social media platform?
What technology will they be using to verify age other than face recognition?
How do we know kids aren't going to find ways around this?
For example, I could get one of my older siblings to create an alternate account and give it to me.
Like restrictions on things like cigarettes and alcohol, no solution is likely to work 100% of the time, and some under 16s may find their way around the ban. But platforms have to show that they're taking multiple steps to stop that happening. by using technology and looking out for red flags like how long an account has been active, whether the account interacts with content targeted at children, connections to other people under 16, even the language style used and activity patterns that line up with school schedules. The government says it knows some under 16s will still use social media, but it hopes the ban will relieve some of the peer pressure kids feel to be on social media and make it easier for parents to say no.
If you get caught, what would be the punishment?
Don't worry, you won't be going to prison. Or anything, actually. There aren't any penalties for under 16s or their parents who access restricted social media platforms.
This is about putting the onus on platforms, not the people who use them. And the legislation isn't about punishing you. It's about protecting you.
The companies could face huge penalties if they don't try to stop young people from using their platforms. Can I have these taken off? These are just really awkward. Yeah, thanks.
How will they keep all of our private information safe?
That's a good question, and one that has many people worried. The government says it has legislation to force companies to protect people's private information, but as we've seen in the past, things can go wrong.
What if they have close friends only online and that's their only way of communicating with?
Why are they banning young creators who dream to become a full-time content creator?
Those are really good questions, and quite a few experts and young people have spoken out against the ban for those very reasons.
And I completely, acknowledge not all experiences are going to be positive. Certainly I've had my fair share of that online, but a blanket ban doesn't take into account any positive experiences at all, which has been another key problem.
But the government says the risks of social media like cyberbullying, harmful content and online predators outweigh the positives.
It's important to remember that there still are online gaming platforms and messaging apps such as WhatsApp or iMessage that aren't affected, so you can still use them.
Will social media accounts be deactivated?
Yes. Or at least they're supposed to be, but it'll be up to the platforms to make that happen.
We've also recommended that they offer you the option to deactivate your own account, which means that there may be an option to reactivate your account once you turn 16.
Why can't TikTok just create a teen TikTok and an adult TikTok?
Good question. That might happen, but we'll have to wait and see. A lot of countries are watching Australia's social media ban closely to see what impact it has here, and if social media companies change the way they offer content to kids.
There's nothing stopping technology companies from offering services like this that are age appropriate. TikTok, for instance, is creating a separate service. It would have to be completely separate, and we would have to assess it separately, and they can't just shunt you over from this into this one without getting your explicit consent and possibly the consent of your parent.
Will the restrictions and apps be changed over the time?
Will this last forever or will this just be a temporary one?
They're permanent, I'm afraid, and there will be a legislative review in the next 2 years to see how it's going. But I think the good news is that your age isn't. So believe us when we tell you that 16 will come around pretty quickly. And in the meantime, we'll be standing alongside you, your parents and your teachers, to make sure that you're ready and doing all the healthy, fun things that your parents used to probably talk to you about back in the day.
We want to know what you think of the social media ban, so we've started an Australia-wide survey. Over the next few weeks, you can jump on our website and answer some questions. We'll give you the results at the end of the term. Over the weekend, the winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize was announced. Here's Tatenda to tell you who it is and why the award is such a big deal.
They've helped end wars, spoken against nuclear weapons, fought for children's rights, women's rights, and civil rights. These are winners of the Nobel Peace Prize, one of the most famous awards in the world. It's given out each year to a person or organization that's seen to have done the most to promote peace and human rights or resolve conflicts. And there's a pretty interesting story behind it. It all started with this guy called Alfred Nobel. He was a Swedish chemical engineer and inventor who created a little thing called dynamite. While the invention came in handy for lots of things like clearing roads and mining, it was also used as a deadly weapon in wars. The invention made Nobel very rich. But he was a pacifist, meaning he didn't believe in fighting. So before he died, he wrote in his will that part of his fortune would go towards rewarding people and organizations that have given the greatest gift to mankind in the areas of physics, chemistry, physiology or medicine, literature, and peace. The first Nobel Prizes were awarded in 1901. And the rest, as they say, is history. The prizes are decided by a panel of experts in Sweden, and in the case of the Peace Prize, Norway. It's a decision that often causes debate, and occasionally controversy. And this year, there was a lot of talk about one particular nominee, US President Donald Trump.
Pakistan nominated him for Nobel Peace Prize.
The letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee, it's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well deserved.
They will never give me a Nobel Peace Prize. I deserve it, but they will never give it to me.
And well, they didn't. Instead, this year's Nobel Peace Prize went to Venezuela's opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, for her work promoting democratic rights in the country.
Warmest congratulations to you, Maria.
Thank you so much, but I hope you understand this is a movement. This is a achievement of a whole society. I am just, one person.
Known as the Iron Lady in Venezuela, Maria Machado was blocked by Venezuela's courts from running for president in 2024, after challenging its current president Nicolas Maduro, who has been in power since 2013. She currently lives in hiding, where she continues to fight for the rights of Venezuelans.
She embodies the hope of a different future, one where the fundamental rights of citizens are protected and their voices are heard. In this future, people will finally be free to live in peace.
In a statement, Ms. Machado dedicated the prize to the people of Venezuela. As for the other Nobel Prizes, they were awarded to scientists who helped to explain the human immune system and described the weird phenomenon of quantum tunneling.
It never occurred to me in my entire life that anything like this would ever happen.
Australian professor Richard Robson was part of the team who won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry for his work developing a new type of molecular architecture that can help produce fresh water.
It's very dry air in the desert and it's difficult to get water, but with this material you can do that. You can capture water at night, and then when the sun comes out and the temperature rises, the water comes out.
And finally, the Nobel Prize for Literature went to Hungarian writer László Krasznahorkai, known for his dystopian novels. Each winner gets a medal, a fancy diploma, 1.7 million Aussie dollars, and of course, a place in history.
Which of these is not a category of the Nobel Prizes? Mathematics, literature, or medicine? It's mathematics. There are 5 original Nobel Prize categories: physics, chemistry, physiology or medicine, literature and peace, plus a Nobel Memorial Prize in economic sciences that was added to the list in 1968.
This place is epic.
Aussie Motorsport's holy grail, the Bathurst 1000, put on quite a show over the weekend. It was anyone's race to win, as the weather sent the race into chaos and lots of frontrunners dropped like flies.
It's like a shark attack, look at this.
With just 5 laps to go, it was a fierce battle between Cooper Murray, James Golding and Matt Payne, when disaster struck Murray as he was bumped by Golding.
He's giving him a hit! He's off the road!
While James Golding crossed the finish line first, he was given a 5-second penalty for the shunt, handing the win to second across the line Matt Payne and co-driver Garth Tander. In netball, Australia's Diamonds have wrapped up a 3-0 clean sweep of their 3-game test series against the South African Proteas. The Diamonds comfortably led their final test from start to finish, with standout Sophie Garben sinking 29 goals to help the team to a 65-42 victory. The Diamonds will now face New Zealand for the Constellation Cup on Friday. Heading now to Melbourne. A record 50,000 runners hit the pavement for this year's Melbourne Marathon. The race goes all the way through the CBD to St Kilda foreshore and finishing in the MCG. Jack Rayner took his second win for the men's competition, crossing the line in 2 hours, 15 minutes and 2 seconds. As for the women's race, the honours went to Caitlin Adams, with a time of 2 hours, 30 minutes and 26 seconds. Not bad for someone who had never completed a marathon before. Finally, we're going international for this last event. This is the Dance Your Style World Final in LA, where a crowd of 10,000 people watched as the best street dancers from all over the world performed in one-on-one mixed-style dance battles. In the end, it was the Netherlands' Jaira Joy whose moves took her all the way to first place.
I will be awake the whole night, like, what did just happen?
This term, we've been asking kids around the country to tell us about the things they're passionate about. And today, we're going to share the passion project of some South Aussie students who are bringing back the art of old school letter writing. Check it out.
Okay, we've got our next lot of pencil pal letters. April.
The story of Pencil Pals began with my teacher from this school and a different teacher from a different school. We decided to do this fun little experiment that could connect us with different children.
Nowadays, the idea of writing a letter to someone is kind of outdated because we have so much technology. We always joked about, oh, we should write to each other. Our kids should write to each other. And then the idea of pencil pals happened because they write with their pencils and not pens.
When I first found out that we were doing pencil pals, I was shocked because it's a new thing, but I was also excited.
My pencil pal and I write about like what's your favorite food, do you play games at home, and I figured out they do Indonesian online.
When we finish writing our letters, we send it to the office and put it in a green bag. A postman comes and collects it and sends it to Renella South Primary School.
I decided to start pencil pals with my Year 3-4 class because I really wanted them to have an authentic way of writing and reading with a real person, someone that they'd never met before.
My reaction when I found out that Hat was going to have a pencil pal was like exciting because you get to meet new people and make new friends.
So our pencil pal writes like, what's your favourite animal, like what did you do at camp? And they write what's their routine at school. My pencil pal's name is Dawson and he likes drawing. His favourite animal is a shingleback lizard. My pencil pal's name is Amelia and what I learned from her is she draws really good and she drew me a little alien on the moon. Writing to my pencil pal has helped me write neatly and reminds me to do capital letters.
It feels exciting to know what the person likes and more personal information or information about them.
Other schools should definitely have pencil pals because they can communicate with each other.
And they can also meet new people they haven't met before.
Well, that's all we've got for you today, but next week we'll have a special episode for Media Literacy Week, where we'll be digging into digital media. In the meantime, you can jump online whenever you like to check out more BTN and Newsbreak and BTN High. Oh, and don't forget to fill out our social media band survey. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!